What's up, everybody? Welcome to Bios3 Raw TV. So I just got done watching Rich Piana's video about synthol. And Rich, you're right. You're absolutely right. And you wanted people to come forward and talk about how synthol fucking doesn't work. That's exactly what this video is about. I've talked about it in the past, and you know, my synthol use, and people like to, you know, bust my balls about my shoulders. Say, oh, synthol. This is actually scar tissue in my shoulders right here, not from synthol use. Well, I guess it technically could be from the synthol use, but it's not from the synthol itself. It's actually from the fact that back in the day when synthol was around, we couldn't get new syringes. They weren't legal, and you couldn't just buy them in a store. You had to know somebody to be able to get them, and it was like, you know, a nurse practitioner or a nurse or something like that. So we would reuse the same fucking needles over and over again multiple times. As those needles start to dull, they start to break through that muscle tissue like that, and they scar because they're causing like a blunt force trauma to the muscle. So, you know, that is where that comes from. So a lot of people think, oh, you know, the synthol, it's not permanent. It is absolutely not permanent. And these guys that you're seeing, you know, the arms fucking blown up to ridiculous proportions, it's not synthol. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it is not synthol. I actually know Greg Valentino personally, and everybody likes to point the finger and go, synthol. Greg fucking trains now and doesn't even fucking take any steroids or anything, and his arms are still like fucking this big. Synthol does not stay in your arms like that. Now, I use synthol, it was Chris Clark's Pump and Pose, the very first one that came out. And I'd heard about it, this is probably about 2002 or something like that. I'd heard about it, and I heard that all the pros are using it, blah, blah, blah. That was bullshit. Only like Milos Sarcev, Nasser El Somebody, these fucking cronies who just were starting to figure out how to use it. Flex Wheeler, like the top guys were just figuring out how to use it. Not everybody and their brother, not the fucking amateurs, not every single pro. And when they used it, like when you saw Milos, who almost killed himself with it, his biceps became distorted and flat. Nasser's deltoids became fucking really strange looking. Flex Wheeler's arms became fucking all puffy. Like there was a change in the way that, you know, these guys' muscles looked. And you can see like Sean Ray didn't have it, Dorian Yates didn't have it, you know, Jay Cutler didn't have it. These guys did not have that look, but the guys that did use it, and Milos talked openly about it because he almost fucking killed himself with it, their muscles actually changed shape. Like there was no more fucking peak on it. It was like flat, it was watery, it was like, it just looked fucked up. But I didn't understand at the time because like I just looked at mass. I was like, mass, big, 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 big. What I gotta do to get big? Get my hands on this shit. So I go to a nutrition store in Rhode Island. I don't remember the name of it. The guy's name was Keith. And I was talking to Keith, he was like this fucking diet guru or whatever the fuck he was. I was talking to Keith about this stuff, and I was like, you know, have you ever heard of this stuff? He's like, yeah, we fucking sell it here. And I was like, fuck, if you guys sell it, like how much is it? It was fucking $300 a bottle for 100 cc's. 300. And I was like, okay, fuck it. So I bought a bottle. I took it home. The protocol was 1 cc per site for a week, 2 cc's per site for a week, and then 3 cc's, the Boston Light 3 cc's per site for a week, for 3 weeks, every day. And then a maintenance dosage of, I believe of, it was 1 cc every other day for, you know, thereafter. And I started plugging away with this shit in my fucking arms. I started pushing the fucking needle in there, getting the oil in, and my arms got inflamed. The bicep tendon hurt like a motherfucker. I couldn't straighten my arms out. The triceps were almost impossible to fucking deal with. Like the pain in your elbow and that fucking tendon down here, almost impossible to deal with. And I got through the whole protocol. It was 3 weeks. When the maintenance phase came, I remember thinking, I have to maintain this to a certain point so the fascia stretches out, and as the muscle fascia stretches out, you're gonna have more fucking room to grow. Listen, stretching muscle fascia is nothing you fucking do. They had John Perillo, they had dog crap fucking extreme stretching. There's been all kinds of things, massage therapy to try to fucking stretch that fascia out so that you grew muscle faster. And you know what? None of them helped anybody fucking grow any faster than if they just fucking trained with weights. So let's face facts. I did this synthol stuff for a while, and yes, you got like an inch on your arms over like, fuck, you know, a month, but I couldn't budge it. And I couldn't fit any more oil in my fucking arm. There's no way that I was going to be able to do, I don't know how Boston does the shit he does now. 3 cc's in each site like that, there's no fucking way I could have dealt with that kind of pain for that whole time like that. But even Boston, though, year round doesn't do it. Like you can take it for a certain period of time and probably deal with the fucking pain. But to do that year round, like people, you know, accuse Rich of having synthol in his arms, you know, what the fuck, dude? Like for him to blow his arms with that shit, like he wouldn't be able to fucking move. You've seen Rich is actually fairly limber. Like, his muscles are not super tight. You see him always kind of going like this and moving around, loosening up. Like, you wouldn't be able to do that with a bunch of synthol in your fucking muscle. So, all in the end, you know, you're looking at probably fucking 18 years ago that I was using this shit. And my arms are back down to like 16 and a quarter or whatever the fuck they are. Nobody can say I don't train them hard, because I do train them hard. I train them heavy. But I didn't keep any of that fucking muscle. They're not any better now than they were before. And finally, the bicep shape and structure came back in the cuts, which was, you can see that. That's genetic in my arm right there. Where my bicep is and my tricep is, you can see that. That's all genetic right there. That was fucking gone with the synthol I used. It was like a big fucking, like, washed out blob. So, you know, honestly, when I hear people talking about synthol, using small amounts of it leading up to a show, like I used to put it in my rear delts, leading up to a show. Look, rear delt is not fucking, I even talked about it in my bodybuilding life and pictures. My rear delt doesn't pop anymore. See that? Like, if I was putting it in the rear delt, which I totally admit that I was doing, why the fuck isn't it like that anymore? Because this stuff doesn't fucking build muscle like people think it does. So now what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put up some actual pictures so you guys can see. And I like doing this picture thing. I think it's pretty interesting. It's a little bit different kind of take on things, but you can see what the shape of my bicep was when I was younger, what the shape of my bicep was. You know, I don't actually have any pictures when I was on the synthol. I wish I did when I was at my biggest on it, but like back then, like, they didn't have the phones with cameras and shit on them. You have to use like the little fucking disposable cameras and shit. So there's a lot less pictures from that time frame. But it was actually a point where Mesomorphous was the message board, and Mr. Huge was his name. I don't know his real name, obviously, but I was talking about using synthol on the forum, and he contacted me and said, hey, there are some pros, like Ernie Taylor, for one, who denied ever using it. He buys the shit from us. We're trying to get somebody to promote it, and nobody will fucking say that they're doing it. And, you know, I said, fuck. I said, well, what do you need from me? He said, well, if you promote it, we'll give you free synthol. So I said, fuck it. So my face was slapped on the fucking website, a picture of me, saying that I use synthol, and I was given 3 bottles of synthol per month. So I had plenty of synthol at that time to try to fucking do as much as I could. And again, you know, I did the protocol the way it was supposed to be done. In my head, I was like, look, I put that inch on and I'm going to keep that inch forever. And that's not what happened. Like, you don't keep the muscle. It doesn't grow permanent muscle. Otherwise, I would have put that shit, let me tell you right now, I would have put that shit all over my fucking body and been fucking huge. In Boston, he's my boy. I love Boston a lot. He's a good kid. But when he stops training and comes off all the drugs, even his whole physique shrinks up and doesn't have that same pop it does when he's using it. Now, Boston, I would say, probably uses more synthol than most of the guys that I've known. Or at least, you know, like when he talks about it building permanent muscle. He wouldn't shrink up as much when he comes off all the drugs and doesn't train, like after he's done with the show, if that actually built real muscle. Does it build up scar tissue? Well, this is scar tissue in my fucking shoulder right here. I mean, that's not necessarily synthol, it's from steroids too, but it does build up scar tissue, but that scar tissue is not gonna make a giant full round muscle. It's gonna make these little fucking lumps over time. And as you start to diet down and lose the muscle that's actually hiding those lumps, you start to see them like you do on my shoulder. So beware. It doesn't fucking build muscle. It doesn't help you fucking maintain muscle. It doesn't stretch the muscle fucking faster. There was never a fucking study done on it. They don't know that. It's a fucking bro thing that some fucking knucklehead came up with out in fucking Germany and manufactured a fucking oil inject in there. And it will absolutely fucking not be able to blow your arms up like 4 or 5 inches. I mean, even Boston's arms, as big as they are, he doesn't go on synthol and it gives him fucking 6 inches to his arm. You know what I mean? He gives him maybe an inch, inch and a half, which is still a lot, you know, as far as arm size, but it's not the fucking Greg fucking Valentino, it's not the Rich Pianas, it's not these fucking weird guys down in Brazil that look fucking crazy that Louis Marco puts up. All these guys are doing something else. It's not the same shit. So for now, let's go into the pictures and we'll kind of show you guys a little bit in there. All right, guys, check this shit out. On the right here, that's the original Chris Clark's pump and pose. I found this online. The guy to the left, he's not on synthol. I don't know what the fuck that is, but that's what people think is synthol, but that's like that crazy Brazilian shit that those motherfuckers are using. But that original pump and pose, that bottle right there is the original one that I actually had back in the day. All right, this is me when I was 18, no synthol, training for 2 years, 100% natural, no steroids. Take a look at the bicep. Same shape, you know, comparison to the rest of my physique. Still the same proportions even that I have today. Just smaller. I'm like 150 something pounds here, 145 pounds, whatever the fuck I was. But you can see very clearly that the shape and size that I have now compared to the rest of my body is pretty much what I was starting with. I mean, it's 100% genetics as to how you're going to wind up, you know, later on after you stop all this synthol and all the bullshit steroids and stuff. You're pretty much going to end up pretty much where you started. I mean, that's just a fucking fact. I don't care what anybody says.
Here we have this picture. You can see me with a couple of my friends. I went off everything, and my whole body shrunk up. Like my arms, everything. Everything shrunk up in proportion. So technically, if synthol made your muscle grow, the rest of my body should have shrunk up, and my arms should have stayed big. But that's not what happened. My whole body shrunk up equally and stayed in proportion. So I basically just looked like I normally did, except I was smaller. And here's a picture of me at over 260 pounds. You can clearly see I was on gear, etc., but my arms, again, in proportion with the rest of my physique, you know, my shoulders, my arms, everything fits. So my genetic structure, my genetic shape is still there, whether I'm 150 pounds or I'm 260 pounds. The synthol didn't make my arms even bigger. You know, they shrink and expand just like the rest of my body with all my other body parts, and they stay in proportion. Here again, I was actually on nothing right here when my body shrunk up to about 180 pounds, 85, something like that. And again, you can see the peak on the bicep. You can see the shape. I was very lean because I was dieting here. It was pretty soon after a show. But you can see all the proportions. My arms still in the same proportions, except compared to my delts and stuff, except it's just a smaller version of what it was before. And here's the last time that I was actually pushing my body weight up. I'm about 250 pounds here. And as you can see, this is probably 2013, I believe. 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, where I was sitting about 250 pounds. And again, my arms are in proportion with my body. They're not bigger. There's no extra muscle. So be aware, guys, this whole synthol thing is exactly bullshit. Plain and simple. Rich Piana couldn't have said it any better, guys. And that's just a fucking fact.